Hey now, Pradel Knives here with the hiccups. Anyway, this is the second time I'm going to try to shoot this video and not hiccup all the way through it, but we'll see if that happens. Whoop, there we go. Anyway, what I got today is a cool knife from a somewhat little known maker, depending on if you're how deep you're into collecting. Pradel. Pradel started producing knives in 1867 in France, and I don't know if they're still in business today or not. I couldn't find a good answer on it. But anyway, I see these knives all the time. I've seen a lot of them that I just thought were like the cheapest, worst knockoffs of sacks. They had a really ugly shield, in my opinion. Some of them have very ugly colored celluloid scales. Yeah, I'm just going to hiccup through the whole thing. Screw it. But then I saw this one. I was like, all right, I'll check this one out because of the horn scales. If you notice, it's got the lovely dual color horn scales. I love when that happens. One of my favorite knives is this Carl Schmidt that has the light color on the front and the dark color on the back. My work area is an absolute mess right now. I got like 10 knives apart as projects and need to figure out or to put them back together now that the parts are all mixed together. But anyway, let's get back to the knife. So, aside from the beautiful horn scales, we've got bird's eye rivets that unfortunately somebody has hammered on. This definitely didn't leave the factory like that. I mean, I think their knives kind of look rough sometimes, but I guarantee it didn't come out of the factory like that. Somebody smacked this with a hammer to tighten it up at some point. That's kind of unfortunate. I missed that in the photos, but I didn't pay a whole lot for it, so I'm not that upset about it. So we're going to do this backwards today for a good reason. First of all, we got a safety style lobster claw can opener. Early ones either have a stout blade, just a stubby little blade, or they have the early like Warner style can opener. Bam. Decent action, a little tight. I could oil it up, but I'm not that into it. I'm not that in love with it. I've been kind of neglecting this one. I've been sitting on it for a while. Got the cap lifter that has the screwdriver tip. I think they tumbled these a little too much, the edge to soften the corner, which I like, but they need to touch this up on a grinder. This bit's definitely not been used, and it's with the rounded corners, it would slip very easily. A good screwdriver has good sharp edges, you know, good sharp corners that bite into the head of the screw. Next up is, if I can get it out. Oh yeah, we got a wood saw. Interesting design on this wood saw. Yeah, I don't know. I guess they wanted the back of the spine to line up. It didn't want it to be that thick. Who knows why they did that? It might just be for clearance for the main blade nail nick. In fact, that's probably it. Duh, you big dummy. But anyway, decent metal saw. Again, a little over tumbled. And these teeth would probably benefit from a few minutes with like a little chainsaw file just to touch up the end of the teeth. I'm sure it would rip through no problem then. Not that I've tried it out now, but I can tell already. Those teeth aren't going to bite great because they're rounded off at the tips. Next up, we got a clip blade. Nice long clip on this blade. Very lightly swedged. It's hard to see. Yeah, you can kind of see it there. Very subtle swedge to it. Very nice design. Beautiful finish. Nice edge. Good little blade. Next up, we got that main blade. Oh, and I hit the camera. So, this is a common feature of Pradel knives. They usually don't have a stamp on the tang. Maybe never, as far as I know. But they always have the stamp on the blade, the spine of the blade, like this. They'll use different fonts for different eras. Obviously, it won't say inox. The earlier ones often are just carbon steel, so clearly they don't say inox on them. Sometimes they have a decorative element, like a ribboned hammer or something above the Pradel. I'm not really sure what it is. I've only seen it in a couple photos. And sometimes they say Pradel Extra. I don't know if that was like a premium brand or what that means. I really have no idea. But either way, nice size blade. got a slight downward cant to it, which is very common on older knives. That's just a function thing. You know, a straight spine looks nice, but this is better for getting leverage on what you're working on. Bam. I really love those back scales. You can see there's a couple cracks forming in it, but this will be stable as long as it's in properly stored. So let's get to the back tools. First up, you know, we got to have that reamer with the eye for using as a sewing awl. Again, this tool is over polished like the other ones. This would, if you wanted to use this as a reamer, I would hit the edge of this with a file and just make some sharp 90-degree edges on it. But, you know, for the display purposes I'm using this for, I'm not carrying this thing. Let's face it, I can barely carry the stuff I want to carry, let alone the stuff I don't even intend to carry. So, next up, we got the requisite corkscrew. And this is a French knife. Of course it's going to have a corkscrew. You needed a corkscrew back in the day. I always hear Swiss Army people say corkscrews are useless, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, I mean, if you don't get it, you don't get it, you know, but there's nothing wrong with drinking some wine, which is a fine reason for it. It's also great for untying knots. You can store stuff in it. There's products available, like the mini screwdrivers, mini tool sets, the fire ant, the tinder that corkscrews in there. There's cool stuff you can do with the corkscrew that a Phillips you can't do. And, you know, on your Victorinox, the can opener covers most of your Phillips needs anyway. Last, but certainly not least, and this is what made me want to get this knife, because this is a rare feature on knives, especially today. I don't think it's a feature on any knives today. This is called a Gimlet. There's a couple of famous Wenger knives that have this, like from the 1920s, I believe. But these are fairly rare on knives. And what a Gimlet is for starting screws. It's just a simple little drill bit. You just operate by hand, and it allows you to drive a screw easier, and also without risking cracking what you're screwing into. And this was a tool that would have been common in any carpenter's toolbox, you know, back in the middle of the 20th century, and probably even later than that. I have a cool tool set somewhere in my basement. I picked it up I found it in a box of junk in a house I was cleaning out while I was working on it, and it was like a screwdriver. It had a saw head that went into it. It had a bunch of gimlets, and it had these weird, I assume they're obsolete screwdriver types. There was like a triangle shaped one. It was just some weird stuff in there. It was super cool, a Sears Roebuck product. I gotta find that thing and do a video on that, because that's a pretty cool tool. But anyway, yes, so the Gimlet and the horn scales, I was sold. I didn't pay a whole lot for it. I mean, this is just dipping my toes in. You know, I like to experiment with non-Swiss knives once in a while, especially when they're related somehow. So I had to check one of these out. I'm looking to get an older one. You notice it's got like a coffin type shape to it. Their older ones were shaped almost like a Swiss Army knife, so an older one might look more similar to this, you know. But for now, and this is also a large knife, I would suspect it's 105 millimeters. It's not quite as long as 111. Do I got a 91 here somewhere? But compared to a 91, you can clearly see the difference on that guy. So it's a fairly substantial knife. Nice little blade on it. Tools with a little handwork would be perfectly serviceable. And the older ones, I think, are a lot better made. I'm going to find an older one soon and do a video on that. But, so, that's my Pradel camping knife, whatever you want to call it, utility knife, clone, whatever you want to call it. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. They're just cool knives. A cool knife's a cool knife. I don't have any restrictions on who makes it or where it comes from. If it's cool and it's well made, I'm all about it. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'm Petey Grizz. I'll see you in the next one.